Hi everyone, if you like what I do, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and consider checking out my Patreon. Enjoy the video. Rapidly evolving to become the most advanced species upon Terraria, the Merfolk used their burgeoning intelligence and creativity to create a sunken utopia, overcoming otherwise insurmountable obstacles with not but their own tenacity and will to survive. A day would come, however, when no amount of technology or knowledge would be able to save them, for a Great One approached, bringing with him a cosmic madness that would taint the minds of the Deep Ones. Even then though, there would be those who fought back, refusing to allow their achievements to fall silently into obscurity. By the lizards long ago. However, the terrain can be extremely dangerous. Right, time to die. Before they would witness his coming with their own eyes, the Merfolk felt the Great One's arrival, for on the surface his descent had been heralded with a great flash and the sky becoming as flame. Below the waves, there was only that great tremor that permeated through the waters, alerting each and every Merfolk that something had changed, and was very wrong. For a time their lives continued on, an unspoken dread living with all Merfolk. While they did not know what to expect, it was assumed that any catastrophe would come swiftly, so little did they expect the slow and insidious indoctrination that would sow the seeds of their people's destruction. Unlike many of his brethren, Cthulhu had no need to rain destruction upon those he wished to rule over, for his mere presence would be enough to turn the hearts and minds of those around him to his whim. And in the period since his coming, rather than manically scheme upon a throne of skulls, he would isolate himself upon the ocean floor and fall into a deep slumber, his dark influence extruding from his very being, influencing others to do the Great One's bidding. From then on, growing numbers of Merfolk from across their vast civilization began to experience horrifying visions. They saw torment without end, twisted inconceivable spaces, and a dark lord that stood above it all. Many who saw these visions were driven to take their own lives, but many more began to revere the Great Lord, seeing him as the only one who could bring meaning to the things they saw. Solitary, disorganized sects began worshipping the Great One, and it was not long before they merged into a singular cult that became a religion to the Merfolk. To the detriment of all else, a growing portion of the community dedicated themselves to the cult, and innovation within the civilization came to a halt. Merciless in its slavish devotion to their star god, the cult members would hunt down those untouched by Cthulhu's visions and sacrifice them as unbelievers until there only remained the true chosen. Finally, all that had made their people great quickly fell away, leaving naught but the idolization of an alien god beyond all comprehension. Now that their ranks had swelled sufficiently, Cthulhu's Deep Ones were commanded to construct a new city to honor their mighty god, and upon its completion, he would awake and lead them to salvation. The city would be known as Terraria, the seat in which Cthulhu would take rule of the whole of Terraria. Unknown to the Deep Ones, however, not all unbelievers had been purged, with some remaining concealed in the decaying ruins of their old cities. Now that the cult was focused on their new directive, the survivors were afforded with the chance to fight back. There were far from enough of them to launch any kind of offensive, but what they did have was the collected knowledge of their people. Using what they could find among the ruins, the survivors devised a plan centered around a device created out of high technology, ocean mysticism, and the collected fear of those fallen in the purge. They had created the first Neptune's shell, something with which they could do what was otherwise unthinkable. They knew that there were primitives upon the surface, rudimentary civilizations that had come and gone without even knowing of their existence, but now they must make contact. Surely if the surface dwellers knew that they too would be threatened by the Great Old One, then they would assist the Merfolk, using the Neptune's shells to become kin, and join in a war for all things beneath the sea. Upon venturing to the surface, however, the Merfolk did not expect to find a shattered world, still reeling from the eons of long subjugation by another cosmic horror. The devastated population upon the land now offered little hope to the surviving Merfolk, but still they had to try, and eventually managed to recruit a fair contingent of those unwilling to allow the dark times to return. Using the shells created by the survivors, the small but determined army set out for Terraria, but in the time it had taken to raise a fighting force, the city neared completion, and the Great Old One stirred from his slumber. Valiantly, the Merfolk battled their brainwashed friends and family, even getting the upper hand at a point, but ultimately all would be for naught, as at last Cthulhu revealed himself to his followers. At the height of his power and enshrined amongst the loyal, he cast away his foes with a single thought. Those who were not instantly vaporized fled far away from both Terraria and their old civilization, so deep into the ocean that the cold and dark changed them, the pressure warping their features into something entirely different, merely scarred and forgotten creatures from the deep, still clutching the shells gifted to them from the survivors. Used as his personal servants throughout his rule, the Deep Ones would eventually meet their end when their master did. No longer required to serve, it might have been that they were destined to slowly decay within another ruined city. This is if it had not been for the infection of the Blood Moon spilling into the oceans, for as it mutated other sea-dwelling creatures, its touch awoke the Deep Ones from their eternal rest, imbuing their rotting forms with a bloodlust to rival that of any land-dwelling zombie. The only bastion of true merfolk are those who reside in the remote lands of snow and ice, fiercely defending their territory from any who may encroach upon it. Their story, though, is an entirely different tale. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked what you saw, then please consider liking the video, subscribing and sharing it with your friends. If you want to support the channel even more, then head over to Patreon, become a channel member, or buy some merch. Links are all down in the description. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you next time.